This is wildlife, and today I'll show you the most fearless animals that even the fiercest predators were afraid of. Let's go! Everyone's heard about the electric eel's superpowers. It allows it to resist even such huge creatures as anacondas, horses, and crocodiles. But that's not all there is to say about this electro from the animal world. It's a pity people don't keep electric eels in their homes and aquariums. They think the fish is too big, too fastidious, and dangerous. Nevertheless, I see some positive sides to it. For example, what to do if the electricity in the whole house is cut off. With an electric eel, it's much easier. You put your phone to it and charge it up. You could boil a kettle there and you can do anything at all. There are so many interesting facts and myths about this creature. Let's start with the most popular one. Did you know that the electric eel is not an eel at all? The fish has much more in common with catfish. However, electric eels belong to the neotropical knifefish order. Therefore, if someone will talk about the electric eel, each of you will be able to flaunt your knowledge and notice, actually, it's not an eel, it's an electric neotropical knifefish. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's a matter of opinion. But it used to be thought that the electric eel was the only one of its kind in the entire Amazon. However, modern research has shown otherwise. Turns out that there are as many as 3 species of the knifefish, and their difference can be seen not only in appearance but also in voltage. By the way, later I'll tell you about one interesting experiment, how a man tested the voltage of the eel personally with his own hand. Be sure to watch the video to the end. So that's what I was talking about. Oh yeah, they found 3 species. Electrophorus volti can electrocute up to 800 volts. Electrophorus varii can electrocute up to about 600 volts. And Electrophorus electricus can electrocute a measly 400 volts. And now everyone imagines an electric eel swimming on the water surface surrounded by lightning, as if it were not a fish but some kind of Thor or Zeus and knocking down everything and everyone in its path. Undoubtedly, it sounds epic and cool, but today's protagonist is too infantile and simply not interested. This fish can only move and try to do something when it's hungry, or in self-defense, of course. We'll talk about that later, but for now, let's consider the principle of obtaining food. When the eel gets within sight of suitable targets to eat, like Iron Man, it marks them with its eye and swims towards them. Once nearby, the eel calls out to Zeus and creates several powerful discharges at once. I really want to show you how it looks like, but it's not easy to find the right footage at all. The thing is that the electric eel shoots with lightning speed and you can see it only in slow motion. Our knifefish beats on the area and stuns everyone that gets caught in its electric essence. And what happens next is what people call a mere formality. All the eel has to do is suck up the tastiest stuff and go to sleep. Following the logical chain, you'll ask the question, can this monster of the depths harm a human? Does it have enough power and does it manifest such a desire in general? Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, humans don't have to worry about anything. A walking power bank can take us to the point of death, but in very rare cases. First, the victim must have a weak heart. And secondly, the electric eel is afraid of big guys like us and shows no desire to attack us first, except in self-defense. It's more interested in eating snakes. This is what I call a tasty and useful breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Young anacondas are sent to the stomach of Electro of the water world. The only thing is that only adults that are more than 3 feet long and weigh about 44 pounds can do this. By the way, the electric eel will not lose weight by the summer because most of its weight is made up of the organs responsible for the discharge. This is how fate has been cruel to it. These organs, by the way, are nothing but modified muscle cells. And since the electric eel's entire body and organs are a conductor of electricity, this animal has mastered a rather strange but effective attacking technique. If necessary, the knifefish can jump out of the water and snuggle up to the offender or potential prey with its belly. In this way, the eel will be able to roast and knock down even the largest enemy as much as possible. By the way, I don't just mean big fish. Not at all. These creatures can even deal with horses. Unfortunately, there's even a relevant fact in history. I'll tell you about it a little later too. It's important to note that it would be wrong to blame the electric eel for all its deeds at once. This fish is not partly to blame. The fact is, the knifefish has rather poor eyesight, and for orientation in murky waters, it uses its electricity. This electro shoots around itself with 10-volt discharges and makes itself a 3D picture of the world around, which will be cooler than the virtual reality helmets. What's more, this isn't the only way the electric eel is able to use its main ability. With discharges, it's also learned to communicate with its congeners. Just as electricity allows us to chat, electric eels are able to communicate with each other through electric discharges, informing about their location, age, gender, and other personality parameters. As I promised at the beginning of the video, I'll tell you a short story about how one brave man tested the discharges of the electric eel on himself. The scientist's name is Kenneth Catania. The man wanted to test what voltage the electric eel creates when it strikes, and how strong an electric current can pass through the human body. All experiments the scientist conducted on himself. As his test subject, he chose a young eel, which was about 16 inches long. Fortunately, at least he took that individual and not one that was 5 feet long. First of all, the scientist measured the electromotive force and internal resistance of the eel using an ammeter, voltmeter, and several resistors. After that, from the data on the conductivity of water at room temperature, the resistance of water per length of the eel's body was calculated. Then, using a voltmeter and a dielectric plate, the biologist measured the voltage drop on the part of the eel protruding from the water during the attack and found its resistance. Well, as soon as the preparatory part was over, the beginning of the test on the scientist was announced. The biologist used his own hand with the palm dipped in water as an object to attack. To avoid underwater contact between the eel and his hand, he placed the palm in a container of dielectric material, covered on both sides with a conductive layer. With the help of such a device, the scientist measured the dependence of the current that flows through the arm after the eel attack on time. You might ask, why'd he do it at all? It's been clear for a long time that the electric eel hits very hard and is able to knock down even a horse. An adult eel has enough energy to knock down a human. I don't know the answer to that question either. Remains a mystery to me. In any case, the story is interesting. So is the method of the scientist's tests. Hit the like button for the efforts of this brave scientist. And now the promised second story about horses. A scientist came to visit the Indians in order to observe electric eels and do his own research. He asked the natives to catch him 5 knifefish, but he had no idea what seemingly brutal, but as it would turn out later, effective method the Indians would use. They approached the water with a large herd and drove every last horse into the water. Moreover, the natives were constantly scaring them, waving their spears and making them afraid. This caused the horses to roar and beat the water with their hooves in fear. Such actions provoked the electric eels to get close and at some point retaliate aggressively. The eels began to electrocute the horses with all their might. The horses, receiving the real pain and horrible sensations, pounded the water even harder and faster, saving their own lives. As it turned out later, the eel's strike was enough to knock a horse down and make it almost helpless, but it was not lethal. The eels rather exhausted themselves as they spent literally all their energy and surfaced. There they were caught by the Indians with harpoons. Electric eel versus alligator. The alligator is a predatory reptile that has the most powerful grip, incredible reflexes, and amazing hunting skills. In this video, a guy walking into the woods quite by accident saw an alligator swimming towards an electric eel. Clearly, something serious was about to happen, some kind of lightning attack. Basically, that's exactly what happened. The alligator waited for the right moment and grabbed the eel. Let me tell you right away, the alligator's grip strength is very big. For example, the strength of the American alligator is so big that it can even lift a small truck with its bite. Of course, this creature would be weaker, but still. For all those who thought this fight was over, keep watching. The eel shot several defensive discharges and sent the alligator to kingdom come with itself. Pretty quickly, the predator stopped twitching and just froze, plunging back under the water. Electric eel versus dog. Now that we've seen what an electric eel can do to a real alligator, let's take a look at the clash between an electric eel and a dog. You must admit it's very disturbing to watch because the dog is still so young, so cute, and completely unaware of the danger this electro can carry. Throughout the video, the owner and his faithful friend try to chase the electric eel away from their territory, nudging it with a rock to the barking of the dog. At some moments, the dog came so close to the eel that it seemed now it would electrocute the dog and it would be a finish. But I'll tell you right away, everything ended well. This, by the way, is the great demonstration that if no one touches the electric eel, it will also be neutral to others. The monitor lizard. It's these lizards that are particularly fearless. They boast a rather impressive size, especially when it comes to the Komodo dragon, the largest lizard on the planet, as well as voraciousness and resilience. In this footage, for example, we see a cobra clung to a monitor lizard on the road. Any other animal would have tried to throw the cobra off itself, but this reptile seemed to have no problem with it. The snake sank its teeth into the lizard's neck, and the lizard just kept pacing the pavement, dragging it behind itself. At one point, the bite wounds began to show on the lizard's neck, but the lizard kept walking anyway. The cobra eventually unhooked itself from the unkillable lizard. And this is far from the only such case. Monitor lizards often engage in battles with dangerous snakes and often come out victorious. They also fight with other animals. For example, a small monitor lizard can easily devour a rabbit or a bird, and large lizards can eat a whole deer or a monkey in just a few bites. They even try to fight leopards. However, big cats usually win such fights. And the next animal of this episode doesn't care about big cats. It doesn't care about anyone at all. It simply doesn't care who's in front of it. After all, it's the honey badger, a creature that's officially recognized as the most fearless and reckless animal on the planet. Even the Guinness Book of World Records doesn't argue with it. And how can you argue when a honey badger can engage in battle with the king of the jungle? One lion will not be enough for it. It needs at least several lions to feel the resistance and enjoy the fight. But even a mini pride of lions can't always defeat a honey badger. The same is true of other big cats. Honey badgers fearlessly pounce on them and sweep them out of the way. Look how that leopard got it. Got scared at the mad creature and ran away like a little kitten. Like monitor lizards, honey badgers are not afraid of snakes either. And yet monitor lizards take risks when fighting venomous reptiles, but honey badgers do not. They have incredibly thick skin, which is not easy for a snake to bite through. And if a snake does bite a honey badger, the venom won't kill it because it's immune. The honey badger just passes out, sleeps for a couple hours, and wakes up as if nothing had happened. No wonder these crazies attack snakes, deal with huge pythons, and eat toxic scorpions like chips. Although, who am I kidding? It's all more than amazing. Wolverine. And here's a famous relative of the honey badger. The wolverine is also a member of the mustelids family and is also fearless. It may not be as crazy as the African badger, but it's not shy either. The wolverine can get into a fight with an animal larger than itself. For example, it's not afraid to hunt down a wolf. A big dog usually runs away in terror in such an encounter. The wolverine can even attack several wolves. Crazier wolverines do not hesitate to attack even bears. It's said that bears are afraid of these psychos and try not to mess with them. And in times of hunger, wolverines are not afraid to go hunting for moose or deer. The paws and powerful jaws of this predator concentrate strength exceeding the limit allowed for an animal of such size and weight. Add insolence to this, and you'll get an animal that no one wants to mess with. The honey badger is sure to be proud of its relative. Hyena. There is an opinion that the hyena is a worthless and cowardly scavenger that can only pick up remains and attack in clans. Well, this is partly true. Hyenas do try to stick together in groups, but they're certainly not cowardly and practically scavengers. Scientists have concluded that 90% of hyenas' meals are the result of their hunting. The hyena can hunt almost anyone. Of course, the priority is given to the weaker ones, small antelopes and zebras. They can be handled in no time. But hyenas can also attack a lion. Predators surround it, chase it, and potentially finish it off. One lion won't do anything against a couple dozen hyenas, no matter how powerful it is. In a taunting style, hyenas can also attack a leopard. Spotted cats are afraid of these laughing predators. Hyenas also attack huge herbivores, for example, buffaloes and hippos. They're large and have very tough skin. But hyenas easily bite through it. The bite of these creatures is more powerful than that of lions, bears, and some sharks. Just imagine what animals feel when they're bitten by 15 to 20 aggressive hyenas at once. Hyenas should also be feared by humans. Yeah, they're not as dangerous as lions or leopards, but they're very unpredictable. If today hyenas are not averse to approaching a human settlement or even taking food from their hands, then tomorrow a hungry clan can easily bite yesterday's feeder and leave nothing of them but bones. Or maybe they'll chew up the bones too. Tasmanian Devil. Black coloration, a huge mouth with sharp teeth, ominous night screams, and a ferocious temper gave the first European settlers in Australia a reason to call this stocky predator the devil. And they were right. The Tasmanian Devil is a real devil incarnate. It's a very aggressive and fearless animal. Don't look at the small size of the Tasmanian Devil. It's compensated by the monstrous bite force. The bite force of this devil, as measured by body weight, is the highest among mammals. If the Tasmanian Devil doesn't like something, it screams madly, stuns its opponent, and then gets down to business. These little monsters attack snakes, birds, and amphibians without fear and devour everything. The daily rate of the Australian devil food is equal to 15% of its body weight. It's also believed that the Tasmanian Devil is able to hold 9 miles of territory by itself, and anyone that wanders there risks going mad from screaming or experiencing pain from the Tasmanian Devil bite. Baboon. These are some of the planet's most fearless and reckless creatures, ready to fight with anyone. For example, a group of baboons can drive a leopard away from its hunting place. On other occasions, baboons will attack a leopard in ways that can make the leopard feel like a poor prey. Cheetahs and even crocodiles are beaten by these monkeys too. As a group, baboons fear no one and can fight back anyone who gets in their way. And finally, another fearless animal which seems to be afraid of no one at all. Probably not even the honey badger would mess with it. I'm talking about the common house cat. Surprised? Actually, our beloved furballs are just incredibly brave and at times reckless. Don't forget they're predators after all, which means their instincts kick in sooner or later. A small cat can run into a lion, its big relative, and in the end, the lion will be afraid, while the cat will go quietly about its business. Other cats don't hesitate to fight with bears. They definitely chase bears through trees and drive them away from their territory. Some cats even fight with alligators. Any paw strike is risky. Alligators' jaws are very powerful and work fast, but many reptiles respect cats and prefer to stay away from them and keep their mouths shut. Maybe it's time for the honey badger to cede the title of most fearless animal on the planet. Cassowary. Next up is the northern neighbor of the Tasmanian Devil. Cassowaries can be found in Australia, but much more often they can be found in the forests of New Guinea. If you ever find yourself in those lands, stay away from this beautiful blue-headed creature because they're the most dangerous and aggressive birds on the entire planet. These are some of the singular birds that have even killed humans. This isn't surprising because the cassowary is as big as a human. It grows up to 6 feet in height and weighs up to 130 pounds. But unlike humans, the cassowary has 4-inch sharp claws and jumps very high. In general, cassowaries are not quite as bad-tempered as honey badgers. They don't rush at people and animals for no reason, but if a person enters the territory of this flightless large bird, they'll most likely get it. Usually the cassowary starts running around and in a jump it strikes the chest or head in the style of a kung fu master. With such a blow, the bird can scare the opponent, or it can purposely start a fight to the bitter end, especially if it's about its chicks. Wolverine. It's not for nothing that the famous superhero was named after this beast. Wolverines are dangerous and aggressive animals that you wouldn't want to mess with. They inhabit the taiga, forest tundra and tundra of North America and Eurasia. Externally, wolverines resemble something between small bears, badgers, and big dogs. Behaviorally, they're similar to honey badgers. Wolverines are about as thuggish and fearless. They have many known cases of wolverines valiantly fighting grizzly bears or initiating the fight themselves by attacking wolves. Wolves often had to retreat and hide because the pressure of wolverines is a powerful thing. Wolverines also attack people, but not so often. As a rule, a wolverine attacks a person if the person's looking for a fight or if the animal's cornered. In that case, however, almost any animal on the planet will attack, even the most harmless one. But it's better not to corner a wolverine. Otherwise, you can feel the sharpness of its claws and jaws. Let's go back to Africa. In addition to honey badgers, there are plenty of aggressive and dangerous creatures, and the next one is the legendary black mamba. By the way, have you ever wondered why the black mamba is called black? After all, it's not black at all, but olive or, at most, grayish-brown. In fact, the black mamba owes its name to its black mouth, which it displays to intimidate its opponent. In fact, it can intimidate anyone for no particular good reason, because this is one of the most aggressive reptiles in the world. The king cobra is much calmer. It opens up its signature hood and waits until the offender comes to their senses. The black mamba also stretches and hisses but doesn't wait long. It can quickly pounce on a person or an animal, and the latter will have a hard time. The black mamba is very fast in general. It attacks with lightning speed, getting its fangs and injecting venom into the offender. The venom contains neurotoxins that, in the absence of an antidote, lead to paralysis and respiratory failure in a matter of hours. Buffalo. This giant shares its habitat with the black mamba. Unlike it, it's not a predator for buffaloes or bulls, but that doesn't mean anything yet. Despite its herbivorous nature, the buffalo is known for its aggression and has a low boiling point. The enraged 6.5-foot tall giant, weighing about a ton, is an extremely dangerous creature. In contrast to the black mamba, African buffaloes do not attack very quickly. Sometimes their attacks look even unsightly. The giant runs to the offender waddlingly, but you can be sure it'll make it, and then it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. And in some cases, the buffalo can speed up to 37 miles per hour in turbo mode. Imagine what it's like to be hit at that speed. It's the same as getting hit by a car, unless the car has no sharp horns and doesn't finish you off. Unfortunately, many people underestimate the power and aggression of the African buffalo, which is why they kill lots of people every year. The next animal of the episode is even more dangerous, and you probably already know what creature I'm talking about. Crocodile? Wrong. The correct answer is the hippo. According to statistics, these giants are the ones that kill the most people every year in Africa among all the animals, not counting the malaria mosquitoes. That's about 500 people every year. This isn't surprising because the hippo is a real live tank. It can weigh more than 3 tons, and its body's at least 10 feet long, and its skin is 1.5 inches thick. Not every shot or knife can bring down such a giant, and without a weapon, you can't stand against a hippo. The hippo, like the buffalo, is a herbivore, but it often attacks antelopes, lions, crocodiles, and even buffaloes. At the same time, in Africa itself, hardly anyone dares to hunt hippos. Local animals understand that it's almost impossible to eliminate such an aggressive target. The same can be said about the final animal of this episode, the saltwater crocodile. It's the largest reptile on the planet, the largest crocodile, and the largest terrestrial predator in the world. Reaching a length of 20 to 23 feet, saltwater crocodiles weigh over a ton. They have the most powerful bite force in the world at the moment, no natural enemies but unbridled aggression. Saltwater crocodiles crush and grind the bones of even the largest animals, attack any creature they want, and they feel equally good in both fresh and seawater. In general, it's almost a perfect predator, which is extremely difficult to cope with. For this reason, saltwater crocodiles are among those animals that people capture not for usual hunting or trade, but for safety. This is the only way to save tens and hundreds of innocent lives. Eagles. Eagles are solitary by nature. They prefer solitary aerial journeys, unlike such their feathered relatives as swans, wild geese, and vultures. More than 60 species of eagles are known to science, and most of them inhabit Eurasia. The average lifespan of an individual is 15 to 30 years. Birds fly up to 5.5 to 6 miles above the ground and can remain in the air for several hours in a row without rest. The speed that eagles can develop varies from 75 to 125 miles per hour, but some species are much faster. For example, the golden eagles can dive at a speed of up to 200 miles per hour. Another interesting fact about eagles is that the bird's eyes are closed by 2 eyelids, a transparent one and a dense one. The transparent eyelid is used by the bird during strong winds or aerial hunting and protects an important hunting tool. The second eyelid closes during sleep. These hardy birds have acute eyesight and extremely strong beaks and powerful claws. Not for nothing, there's an expression, eagle eye. These creatures can easily discern their prey even at a distance of 1.8 miles, so the potential prey has almost no chance to escape its fate. Eagles' eyesight and claws make it easy for them to hunt even prey that lives in the water. For example, like this unfortunate fish. Just look at this footage, which shows that the natural-born killer copes with catching its dinner without too much effort. Of course, the eagle's claws serve not only to capture its prey, but also to deaden it quickly, since they penetrate deep inside the body. The average wingspan of eagles is 3.9 to 6.5 feet, which allows them to catch prey underwater and then easily take off. Fish caught by the eagle have almost zero chance of escape. The determination of these birds can only be envied. As you can see in this footage, the wings of the bird of prey are wet, and the weight of the prey is too heavy to take off and fly straight to the place of dinner. Even so, the eagle is not about to abandon its prey to escape. The most important task is to preserve and enhance the reputation and power. In the end, after trying all methods, this eagle reached its goal and flew away with the prey. And in this footage, taken in Kruger National Park, hikers witnessed the eagle mauling the snake. According to the cameraman, the bird grabbed the snake with its legs and immediately struck it in the head with its beak. The eagle then destroyed the reptile and flew away with its tail. Which bird of prey would compare to the eagle in your opinion? Share your thoughts in the comments. And stay tuned to see hawks, falcons, vultures, and more birds in action. Hawks. Hawks are a large group of birds of prey that include more than 200 species. They're widespread almost all over the globe. They hunt in the early morning or at dusk. They can see very well in semi-darkness. In addition, they can move almost silently. They flap their wings a few times and then hover in the air. Anything can become a prey for these raptors. Often it's small birds. In addition, hawks can hunt rabbits, mice, snakes, and lizards. When attacking, these raptors can reach speeds of up to 149 miles per hour. That's why most of their prey are doomed, unless, of course, they're rescued, as in this footage. A bird of prey pounced on a small Yorkshire Terrier and was trying to drag it away when its owner ran out at the sound. When the woman saw the raptor clawing at the dog, she heroically rushed to save the dog and hit the hawk several times with a pillow. Only then did the bird unclench its claws and hurriedly retreated. The protagonist of the video said that the dog remained alive and almost unharmed, getting only scratches on the neck. In the footage, you can see how much bigger the feisty bird is than a tiny Yorkshire Terrier. Who knows how the hunting trip would have ended if the brave owner hadn't come to the rescue? Falcons. Falcons are birds of prey with about 40 species in their genus. The food of falcons is purely animal. They usually eat small birds, small snakes, and monkeys. Like other species of birds of prey, their habitat is often steep mountain slopes, and they live singly. Sharp beaks and claws make falcons excellent raptors and enable them to climb cliffs and difficult terrain. When hunting, they follow the same strategies and principle as other dangerous aerial raptors, never letting go of their prey. Sometimes, however, the hunt doesn't go according to plan. This footage shows a couple of barn owls dozing while waiting for their chicks when a falcon approached their nest. The raptor didn't seem to realize it got the wrong place. The birds literally wreaked havoc inside the cramped nesting box. As part of a project to combat rodents in agriculture, environmental researchers built several boxes for nesting owls and equipped them with video cameras to observe the life of feathered raptors. In the nest that the falcon attacked, the owls were protecting 4 eggs. The owners of the nest house mauled the aggressor, but it managed to escape from the clutches of one of the owls and fly away. Vultures. Vultures are scavenger birds that live almost everywhere. They live in any region with a warm climate, but they're most numerous in Africa. In nature, they have no enemies. At the same time, individuals of this genus, although they're large birds, cannot always stand up for themselves. Their only defense is their wings. When a fight breaks out at the feeding site, the vulture lifts its wings, inflicting non-dangerous but telling blows on its attacker. In spite of such weak protection, these birds often live to be 50 years old. Anyway, take a look for yourself. The events in this footage take place in the coastal American city of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Judging by the video, a huge bird has caught a shark in the sea. Holding it in its claws, it rises high into the sky and circles over the shore. Meanwhile, the fish periodically wriggles, trying to get free. If the shark doesn't frighten the vulture, then it's not surprising that these birds live so long. The vulture suffers much more from humans than from other animals. Of course, nobody hunts these scavengers on purpose, but the damage to the population is essential. Dead cattle are buried in the ground and vultures can't get to them. There are fewer and fewer wild animals in the savanna, so the scavengers are losing their usual food supply. Many countries have banned the use of certain drugs and mandated that livestock be left on the ground for the birds to eat in peace. But many species of vultures are still classified as endangered. Osprey. The osprey is a rather large bird, about 25.5 inches in length. They prefer to live in close proximity to water. Osprey's range is quite wide. It can be found on all continents except South America and Antarctica. During hunting, the osprey flies for a long time over a body of water. It hovers over its prey and then plunges its paws into the water to grasp the fish with its long, curved claws. The osprey attracts the attention of almost all birdwatchers. One of the most incredible spectacles is watching this majestic raptor soar through the sky before hunting. It takes a lot of experience to capture them in flight, and it's much harder to photograph these birds in the midst of hunting. Taiwanese photographer Chen Chengguang is dedicated to creating artistic bird photographs. Some of his best work includes photographs of ospreys made up of several frames combined into a single image that captures birds descending for the prey. Most often, these birds can be found near bodies of water. This is due to the fact that the basis of their diet is fish. In fact, this is the only thing they feed on. Their bodies are best suited for such hunting. Their paws are equipped with curved claws and pads, which are ideal assistants for catching fish. To catch their prey, ospreys plunge sharply to the surface of the water from a height of 30 to 100 feet. Another unique feature is that when an osprey flies with a fish in its claws, it orients it head first to reduce air resistance. There's no doubt that snakes are extremely venomous creatures. But what if I told you that there are birds which venom is many times more dangerous? What do they look like, and what are they capable of? You'll learn about this further. It's worth starting with the fact that scientists have long believed that poisonous birds simply do not exist. But all their doubts were dispelled when the first poisonous bird in the world was caught. It was the pitui. Interestingly, this very bird was soon recognized as the most poisonous in the world. It lives in New Guinea, where it puts its poison into action. It's not inside the body of the pitui, but on the bird itself. Batrachitoxin, a powerful neurotoxin with neurotoxic and cardiotoxic effects, is present on the bird's skin and feathers. Exactly the same poison, by the way, is present on the skin of the golden poison frog, the yellow frog, which is considered one of the most poisonous vertebrates on Earth. That's saying a lot. At the very least, many scientists believe that the pitui is more toxic and dangerous than even many snakes, like the king cobra or the black mamba. However, everything is relative. People and animals poisoned by batrachitoxin do die of cardiac arrest, but at the same time, touching a pitui poses no danger to humans. By the way, the poison is not produced by the pitui itself. The bird receives it with the food, eating bugs which contain batrachitoxin. Similarly, the golden frog receives poison, which, unlike the pitui, is strictly forbidden to touch. It's much more dangerous than the bird from New Guinea and can easily kill with a single touch. Blue-capped ifrit. As for New Guinea, here you can find another poisonous bird. The blue-capped ifrit is, in fact, a relative of the pitui because they belong to the same passerine order. They're similar in the method of obtaining poison. The blue-capped ifrit also gets it by eating bugs. As you understand, like the pitui, the skin and feathers of the blue-capped ifrit contain batrachitoxin. So far, these birds are very similar to each other, but there is still a difference. Unlike the pitui, the blue-capped ifrit can poison a person by touch, so you shouldn't touch this bird. After touching the bird, numbness and tingling appear. It's not fatal, but still unpleasant. Arafura shrike thrush. Turns out that it's in New Guinea that you should look for the most poisonous birds of the planet, because the next animal from this episode also lives in this country. Also, the Arafura shrike thrush can be found in Australia and Indonesia. It has a discrete olive coloring of feathers, so it hides easily in the forest thicket, where it can poison many of its competitors and predators. That's because its poison works the same way as that of the blue-capped ifrit. The bird is literally soaked with batrachitoxin, which makes it equally dangerous for many local inhabitants. These were the main poisonous birds of the planet, but there are still a few birds that can be called toxic. The first is the common quail, or the European quail. I'm sure many of you know about this bird, and someone may even have seen it with their own eyes. Also, you can all know about quail eggs, and many of you have tasted them. But did you know that quails can poison a person or an animal? By nature, these birds are not endowed with poison, but they can become temporarily poisonous if they consume certain plants. including hemp nettle seeds. For the common quails themselves, the seeds are not harmful, but for humans and some animals, they're very toxic. If a person eats poisoned quail meat, then after a couple of hours, the symptoms of poisoning will appear. Firstly, it's a weakness. It can be so terrible that a person will not even be able to move their legs or move at all. Then there's acute pain in the calf muscles, girdling pain in the lower back, as well as discomfort in the back and chest. For the patient, it becomes very painful or even unrealistic to bend or unbend their arms, and breathing becomes shallow. In some cases, kidney failure may develop and even death may occur. But as a rule, everything is limited only to hellish symptoms that pass after 12 hours or a couple of days. Not only a common quail can kill a person, but also a goose, but not any kind, but a spur-winged goose. It's a large bird of the Anatidae family, which is common in the wetlands of sub-Saharan Africa. By the way, these are some of the largest waterfowls in Africa. Adults can exceed 3.2 feet in length and weigh more than 13 pounds. But it's not the size that interests us now, it's the poison. These birds, like quails, can become temporarily poisonous. By nature, spur-winged geese are not toxic, but they can become so by eating blister beetles. In this case, the poison called cantharidin accumulates in the bird's body. It concentrates in the goose's spurs. In theory, a goose can hit a person with a spur and inject poison into their body. In this case, even a fatal outcome is possible, because only 10 milligrams of cantharidin is enough to kill a person. In addition, a person can get poisoned, as in the case of the common quail, by eating such a toxic goose. As you can see, there are not so many poisonous birds in the world, and so far no birds with a venomous bite have been discovered. So toxic birds can rightfully be called very rare. Well, since we're talking about rare birds, why not take a look at other such? Keep watching to see birds that were considered extinct, learn about the rarest bird on the planet, and see a bird that was photographed for the first time just a few years ago. Streseman's bristlefront. It's under such a complex name that the rarest bird on the planet is known. How many of these birds do you think are left? Maybe a few hundred? Maybe a few dozen? Neither. At the moment, less than 15 individuals are known. Most likely, at the moment, there are about 10 of them at all, which makes the Streseman's bristlefront the rarest feathered creature on the planet. These birds live in Brazil, of which they are endemic. You can find them in tropical and subtropical forests, but it's extremely difficult to do this. Any video featuring this bird is a real rarity. There's not much information about these birds. It's known that they feed on insects and stand out for their singing, which resembles either laughter or the sound of a stalled engine. We can only hope that scientists will have time to learn more about these birds, because it's possible that soon the Streseman's bristlefront will completely die out. New Caledonian owlet nightjar. The situation of this bird is probably even worse. It's so rare that it's even impossible to find photos or videos with this bird on the internet. There is literally one illustration made in 1881. That's because the New Caledonian owlet nightjar fell into the hands of scientists twice, the last time more than 100 years ago. In addition, the last observations of this bird were made about 25 years ago. And since then, scientists haven't seen it. It's known that the bird lives in New Caledonia at an altitude of about 3,280 feet above sea level. These owlet nightjars feed on beetles and apparently rest on the ground, not on trees. This is almost all that's known about this rare bird. Scientists don't know how they tweet and sing. They don't even know how exactly these birds reproduce. It's possible that they'll not find out. And it's also possible that these birds have not been on our planet for a long time. Madagascar pochard. This is another rare bird with an interesting story. At the beginning of the last century, these Madagascar ducks were widespread. But since the middle of the century, fish have been brought to their habitats, which began to eat these birds. In just 10 years, the situation has become critical, and there are literally no Madagascar pochards left. In the following decades, they were observed singularly, and in the 90s, not a single duck of the species was found, after which the species was considered extinct. Everything changed only in 2006 when Madagascar pochards were finally discovered. At that time, these ducks totaled only a couple of dozen. But soon a project was created to preserve and restore the species. And at the moment, there are about 100 Madagascar pochards. This, of course, is also very small, but there's a chance that the species will be recovered. Blue-eyed ground dove. Still remember the Streseman's bristlefront from Brazil? So this is not the only extremely rare bird from this country. The blue-eyed ground dove is also endemic to Brazil and also incredibly rare. At the moment, its number is estimated at 50 to 250 individuals. The situation, of course, is better than that of the Streetsman's bristlefront, but it's also critical. The species is on the verge of extinction. In some regions of Brazil, these birds are already supposedly completely extinct. Interestingly, the blue-eyed ground dove was rare almost always. For all the time it's been observed and studied in the wild, only a few times. It was problematic to find it in the last century, and in the century before last, and the first photos of this bird were taken in 2016. Just imagine it. This suggests that the world is still full of extremely rare and amazing animals, which scientists do not even imagine. Who knows, maybe in the near future we'll get acquainted with other incredibly rare and unique birds. And not only. Penguins are very cute creatures. It's hard to imagine them capable of doing anything bad. Or are they capable of doing it? Next, I'll show you how penguins have serious fights, hurt chicks, and more. Kidnapping. To begin with, penguins are no strangers to stealing. For example, they can shamelessly steal rocks from each other. These flightless birds use them to build their nests. Although this is a crime, it's nothing by the standards of animals. What's worse is that penguins kidnap their own congeners. Usually they kidnap the youngest of the penguins. Yeah, I'm talking about baby penguins. In general, penguins are in constant danger. They can be killed by the incredible cold, hunger, or some predator. But danger can also come from adult penguins. The fact is that when a female penguin loses a baby, it can go to its neighbor and steal its egg. But more often, females kidnap the chick that's already hatched and fledged. Sometimes whole raids are arranged. Several penguins can try to kidnap a chick at once, which is often accompanied by the use of force. Sometimes the chicks are lucky, but more often they leave the parent nest and go to the other adult penguins. However, the duration of such parenthood doesn't last long. The female cares for the stolen baby for several hours, days, or weeks, and then loses interest in the chick and just leaves it. The meaning of such behavior of the bird is a mystery. Scientists generally doubt that there's logic in these actions. By the way, as for the loss of a chick, this is a very big pain for penguins. Look how hard they feel the death of the chick. They truly mourn it and grieve. According to scientists, the kidnapping of chicks causes the same emotions, so we can safely say that penguins cause each other terrible psychological pain. Infidelity. Many people think of penguins as monogamous birds that gently and lovingly care for their partners. In fact, this is only partially true. Gen 2 penguins are quite monogamous. They often cement a long-term union, and before starting a relationship, the male gives the female a beautiful stone, which symbolizes the seriousness of its intentions. It's sort of like an engagement ring in our world. As for most other penguins, they enter into a long-term relationship with each other in order to survive the harsh Antarctic winter. Because of this, they're considered faithful and loyal to each other. In fact, more than 80% of penguins divorce every season and regularly look for a new partner. But even more interesting is the fact that penguins are no strangers to cheating. While in a relationship, a female penguin can have a fling with a new individual. So, for example, do the female Humboldt penguins, among them, every third cheats. And the Adelie penguins often sell their bodies. The lack of building material pushes many females to go and mate with another male in exchange for stones. As in the human world, some cheating remains a secret, but often the truth revealed. A penguin may even spot its female with another male. Of course, this will immediately lead to a fight. This is another factor that reveals a different side to penguins. They're very dangerous in fights and can cause serious damage to each other. For example, in this footage, the male returned to the nest and discovered that its mate had already found another male. Penguins immediately pounce on each other, pecking and beating each other with their wings. Unlike flying birds, which wing bones are hollow inside, penguins' bones have no internal cavities, and such attacks can cause significant damage. The damage was done. The males beat each other badly and stopped the fight to call the female. Now it needs to make a choice with which male it will stay. It preferred the homewrecker, but this decision didn't satisfy its first mate. It went after them and attacked the male again. The fight continued. The cheated penguin holds on like grim death, but realizes that it cannot win and, wounded, goes away. Fights between penguins are tough enough, but still, you don't see such fierce fights very often. Often, battles look brutal but end bloodlessly. Well, and the best battles are those in which almost no damage is done. Penguins just amusingly and lightly slap each other with their wings. This is how they sort out their relationship, demonstrate strength, and determine which of them is the boss here. Often there's a stare down before fights, and a third penguin controls the fight. It's something like a referee in MMA or boxing. In fact, it's often involved in the fighting as well. Mating. Mating is common in the animal world, but in the world of penguins, it's not so simple. You already know that penguins regularly cheat on each other, but that's not all. Scientists who have studied penguins have concluded that same-sex relationships are common between them. In fact, it's not a big deal at all, especially considering that adult penguins can have sexual relations even with chicks and dead females. Even experienced scientists who saw it with their own eyes were shocked. At one time, this material was deemed too explicit to make it to public. Scientists do not fully understand what this is all about, but according to one version, such strange and even creepy sexual relations are the result of inexperience of male penguins. Scientists say that they simply make mistakes in mating. Not too good mistakes, to be honest. It's okay if we're talking about same-sex relationships, but molesting chicks or mating with breathless females? That's too much. In any case, even knowing all these facts, many people will still think of penguins as cute creatures. In general, they are indeed cute and cool, but not all of them. For example, crested penguins have a very bad temperament. These birds, which live on the southern coast of Africa, South America, and New Zealand, are quite aggressive. They can easily attack any object or pounce on their congeners for no reason. They also scream very nasty and shrill. You can distinguish these penguins by a yellow crest, so if you see such a screamer in the wild, it's better to stay away from it. As you can see, life is not easy for penguins. These creatures can be dangerous to each other, hurting each other, cheating, bullying, and beating each other. But that's only half the trouble, because penguins also have enemies that make their lives even more difficult. Keep watching to see the animals that hunt penguins and learn about the most unusual penguin on the planet. Leopard seal. This animal is one of the main enemies of penguins. On land, penguins are not particularly in danger, but they often have to dive into the water for fish, and there, leopard seals are waiting for them. Maybe they don't look very threatening outwardly. In fact, they're very dangerous predators which mercilessly deal with their enemies. Also, the leopard seal can climb into the ice floe and kill the penguin, which is not far from the water. However, these predators usually climb onto the ice floe in the second stage of the hunt, if the prey manage to escape them in the water. Fur seal. Here's another seal that poses a great danger to penguins. However, in this case, it's even creepier. Fur seals not only attack and eat penguins, but also engage in sexual intercourse. Even small seals can harass penguins, and adults force penguins into sexual intercourse. Several such incidents are known, and they're all similar. Each time, the fur seal would chase and catch the penguin and then get on top of it. Killer whale. There's no surprises in this case. The killer whale, or orca, is one of the world's best ocean predators, if not the best at all. The orca's favorite food is seals, but penguins can also become prey. They hunt penguins both in the water and near the ice. If we consider the second option, the tactics are approximately the same as for hunting seals. Orcas attack in groups, make waves, and also hit the ice floe from the bottom, so the penguin loses balance and falls down into the water. There, orcas will kill it in no time. Also, in the water, the local sharks pose a threat to the penguins. They will definitely take the opportunity to devour the inattentive penguin, but only if there are no orcas nearby. In this case, the sharks themselves will have to think about protection. And finally, to lighten the mood, I suggest you take a look at the most unusual penguin in the world. On the outside, he looks quite ordinary, same coloring, same shape as everyone else, and so on. But in reality, it is a sir, a knight, and a general. And I'm not kidding now. The penguin's name is Sir Nils Olav, and he is respected throughout Norway. He is an honorary commander and mascot of the Norwegian King's Guard, as well as a brigadier general. It all started in 1972. At that time, the Norwegian King's Guard was participating in the Royal Edinburgh military tattoo. At the request of Lieutenant Nils Egeland, the local zoo allowed to make one of the penguins a kind of son of a regiment of the Norwegian King's Guard. The penguin was named Nils Olav and given the rank of Lance Corporal. On each visit of the King's Guard to the Royal Edinburgh military tattoo, Nils Olav became promoted to a higher rank. Already in 1987, he became a sergeant, and in 2005, he became a colonel-in-chief. During these decades, several penguins have already died, but the Norwegian Guard replaced the deceased with a new individual each time so that the dynasty lives on. The current general is Nils Olaf III, and he's doing fine. Soldiers and guardsmen line up in front of him, officers salute him, and the penguin himself conducts inspections and takes part in ceremonies like a real general. That's it for today. Which of these creatures surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.